Alrighty, here we go here. Give it a few minutes for everyone to get here. Alrighty, we'll give it a few more minutes to check in, see Devlin should be here shortly. So should Liam. Alrighty,
Hey, Scott.
there we are today with there's Captain Liam. How we doing today, guys?
All
Excellent,
good.
excellent. How are you, Devlin?
I'm very good, thanks. Liam, how are you?
Excellent, mate. Nice to finally meet you.
It is nice to meet you. Yeah, we've had a few back and forth chats, but never actually got the chance to meet up, even though it's virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have you met Captain Scott? Have you worked together before?
Yeah,
yeah,
we
we
worked together for a long time.
yeah, almost 2 years maybe.
Yeah,
I
yeah, 2 years.
can't
Yeah,
remember. Yeah, yeah. We certainly had some fun.
definitely did. Yeah, got some
Yeah,
stories.
yeah.
Well,
Some we cannot live to tell.
Yeah. And then Scott, I don't know if you know, but I was just telling Liam a little while ago, a few months ago when we first met, that my brother and I were named after a character from a Jack Higgins novel
Oh,
called The
really?
Eagle Has Landed, and the guy's name was Liam Devlin, and my brother was older, so he got the name Liam, and then I got the last name Devlin as my first name. So Devlin's actually an Irish last name, as you can see, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he got both of them. He got my brother and my name, Liam Devlin.
yeah, my
Oh.
parents weren't that original. They're like, just leave Devlin. That's it. That'll do. That'll do.
That's the whole name, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's funny.
Yeah.
My brother was named after Che Guevara,
Okay.
revolutionary. My
Yeah,
other
Wow.
yeah.
brother was Omar Sharif. I was Liam Devlin, and my younger brother was Jules Verne from A
Yeah.
Thousand Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah,
So
Really?
okay.
I don't know what was going on in Byron Bay and the hippie
I
villages
guess
out the
so.
back. Yeah,
They're obviously pretty
Everybody's
well read.
revolutionary. Jack
Obviously
Jack
pretty
yeah,
well
Higgins was
read.
he was IRA
Yeah.
in the Eagle has landed.
yeah,
So,
yeah. My parents are well travelled, so they're kind of like, I think they try to want a bit of diversity. Or
Yeah.
nice.
well,
That's
thanks for
cool.
hosting, though, Captain Scott. That means the world, man. I'm on the beach with my kids here, and internet
No,
wasn't
I
that
know.
strong, so
No problem. I was a bit concerned because I'm here in St. Bart's and phones and internet can get jammed up pretty well here too. So, and no big
I'll
deal,
see you.
man.
Yeah. And how's
Yeah.
St. Bart's, mate?
It's busy. Same kind of New Year rigmarole. Try to get in
Yeah.
where you can fit in. That's it.
That's it, mate. When the wind changes, everyone's up watching the boat swing.
Yeah, everyone's calling. Yeah, we know we're close.
Yeah. Did you get a good spot? Did you get close in, or how deep are you?
Well, we're in about 80 feet. We're down
That's all right.
south, so it's not too bad. There's a we came in at night, so we had to kind of pick our way through. Had the bosun find me about 500 feet, 150 meters plus to swing
Yeah.
around. Yeah. So we're good. I mean, we're about 100, 150 meters off everyone around us, and more people have dropped in. So we'll just do the best we can. The drill.
Ex- Excellent. Well,
You know the
Devlin,
drill.
it's great to have you here, mate. I see what you're doing with the Crew Safety Forum, and you're really in the front line of it all. But take us back a bit. How did it start? I kind of started to read your website, which is great, and your story, but it's pretty
Yeah,
epic what you're
so
doing.
unfortunately, as with a lot of good stories, it starts with some sort of tragedy. And
Yeah.
I've been in the industry for 12, 13 years now, and I absolutely love it. That's one thing I think that I don't like is getting mixed up now. A lot of people are talking about the changes that need to be made, not because there's something wrong with the industry. There's just there's a gap that needs to be filled, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, so Paige Bell, she'd actually. I'd taken her to the doctor not long before the whole thing happened. So I
Oh,
actually knew
wow.
her. And she'd had a bad experience on a boat prior, where captain wouldn't give the passport back, and some friends had to go over and sort of escort her off the boat and get her passport back. And when she came back over here to the US, to Florida, she was, I think the stress had given her some sort of skin issue. So I just took her to the
Mm.
doctor and we got her sorted out. And, that was how that whole started. And then obviously when obviously the tragedy happened, um, I mean, there was just, it's sort of like, I feel like for such an industry where there is enough money to have systems in place for everybody to be, even if it's not, I really don't want our system on the safety side of things, the panic button, to be used. If we
Yeah,
can avoid it being used, then we've
yeah, that'd be
achieved our
great.
goal. So it should be a deterrent more than anything else. But once we started talking about how we can get more, let's get a panic button on board, let's get a panic button on the crew themselves, and then I started diving deep into how this. There needs to be more to this than just putting a panic button. There's
Yeah.
there's a lot of isolation. There's a lot of mental stress that we go through. Being able to go to these incredibly beautiful remote areas and spend time with celebrities on charters, and there's a cost that comes to that, and that's
Yeah.
the long hours, the missing your family, missing your partner, your girlfriend, your kids, whatever the case is. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, how can I come up with something that is useful to everybody on board, that is useful to the crew. It gives them that safety aspect. It gives them that peace of mind. If they're on watch by themselves, in some of the not so nice marinas around the world that we do visit, they will have that on them at all times. That doesn't just notify the local, the authorities. If it goes that far, there's a 24/7 monitoring station, but it lets everybody else on board know that there's an issue with that crew member's location. And, so it's not, it'll be the cases of whoever's closest can jump in as quickly as possible. And that
Yeah. So
goes with
backing it up, this is All Safe Yachting
all
has the
safe yachting. Yeah.
device. All Safe Yachting, you've created it as the device on a watch, which is like an app, or is it an
So we
independent
have we
watch?
have a Bluetooth enabled button that can be worn in a silicone watch, to be a water resistant. I'm not going to say waterproof.
Yeah.
And then we have the app, which the app itself is, that's the mainframe. And every
Yeah.
crew member on board would have the app with their dedicated profile. And that gives everything from your height, your eye color, any tattoos, any health issues, if you're allergic to anything, any allergies, with a profile photo. And what happens is if that alert button is pushed on the app or through the Bluetooth button, all of that information is sent to everyone, and including the 24/7 live monitoring station. And, God forbid, it's a terrible situation where the person then cannot answer their phone or respond to any of the actions that people are requesting sort of feedback. All of that information goes straight to the police. Like, this is what they look like. Here's a photo. Here's a tattoo they should have on their arm. This is the last place they were seen within 1 foot. That's how close our geolocator will tell you where they were. Um,
Wow.
so it's not a case of like, hey, let me call 911. What is your location? what is your height, what do you look like, what has happened. It'll give all this information immediately. And then, of course, a lot of the times wherever they're traveling, the crew will be nearby. So they'll also get all that information. They can rush to the scene quicker than anybody else can, as well as all the information going. And then whatever, as it needs to be escalated, it will be. But, just for general safety purposes, this is something, we probably should have had done a long time ago with, these people. I mean, it could be anything, girls going out at night or just going out in some of the
Yeah.
less desirable areas to do some provisioning, or an engineer driving into an undesirable area to go and pick up a part they can't get anywhere else. It's just something that's it's an added level of safety and security for all the crew.
Yeah, so it's not monitoring the crew member, it's providing them an option to find a resource
Yeah,
immediately in the event of something happens. And the reason I contacted you is because we have all these guest pages. And that's
yeah,
what I thought. I saw when the guests want a champagne, Captain Scott, or want something on the boat, they press the guest page
Yeah,
and
yeah,
someone's there in a second. And then I thought about Paige, or I thought about crew members that maybe an engineer's in the tunnel that's fallen, or he
yeah,
needs help, or that's where the fear for me comes into, is not just ashore, it's on board, had an incident, needs immediate assistance. And these
yeah,
yachts are not 100 foot anymore, they're 100 meters.
yeah.
yeah,
So,
Well,
um,
and we can actually, there's another setting in our app where if the engineer knows he's going into a bilge that is known for gas or whatever, they can set a timer that sets. It'll say the time they go in, and for somebody to come check on them in 15 minutes or 10 minutes
yeah,
or 5 minutes. You can
oh,
change
that's
the timer
great.
on the setting. So there's a lot of added things. If they're going up if they're going up to check on radar, and they will obviously radio, but then they're going to put their radio aside because they're going to be using both hands to climb. They can say,
yeah,
hey, check on me in 10 minutes. And that way, as soon as the 10-minute timer goes off, they'll know exactly what it was, because it'll be in the app. It'll say going up, wherever, going up the mast in a sailboat or whatever you're doing, and then it gives you the option to come and check on them. So there's
true.
those different options on the app to do that.
Yeah,
Um,
but these are like action items. These are things that are solving the problem, and that's why I really like this conversation,
Hmm.
because it's not just about what is the problem; it's here's the tools to solve it.
100%.
But I do
Yeah.
want to go back a bit. Is one of the items I talked about regarding pillars of safety is psychological safety. So Captain Scott, yourself first. Why do you think crew have such a fear of speaking out? Why do they not feel safe to speak out without fear? I know it's you and me as
Yeah,
captains, not
yeah,
individually, but as a position. How do we address that?
yeah. I mean, sometimes I think it's they don't want to appear weak, or they don't want to appear that they don't know what they're doing, or that they don't. People have a hard time in general with confrontation and
Yeah,
speaking out, especially when you're in a closed environment. And say for instance, maybe their head of department or the captain's really riding them. you
yeah,
know they're not going to go to them and say, hey, I don't know how to do this, especially if that person's putting the screws to them. I mean,
true.
there's where it really, they need some other kind of recourse to, or someone to talk to, or someone to like
So,
bounce that off of, maybe other crew members or people off board or
I
somewhere
yeah,
else,
well,
agree.
some
because
people have been a bit, they got a bit confused with our, well, not confused. It's like they've sort of gone down one avenue with our anonymous tip reporting. And it's not just a case of, being able to rat people out. If
Yeah,
if
yeah,
there's any if there's any unclear training, they can then
yeah,
just put in an anonymous tip saying, I'm unclear as to the tender operations. And
yeah,
that way, no one knows who did it or said it. But then the captain knows, hey, I need to call a meeting and go over
yeah,
this again, step by step, make sure everybody knows, without anybody feeling like, hey, I'm the bosun, I should have known, but I don't understand it. Let me just put this in. Let me increase the level of understanding for everybody. And, a lot of these things go unsaid because, as you say, there's a fear of like, how can you not know that? Come on, how long you been on boats? What's wrong?
yeah, yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
it's a different kind of tender, different kind of hookup line. We don't know. But
Oh,
whatever the case is,
yeah, yeah,
but it's just, obviously we want, if there's any kind of mishandling of situations by senior members of crew, there's always that fear of retribution, of being kicked
yeah.
off the boat,
Well,
or
the biggest fear to me is the crew that say, I know. And then
oh
you're
yeah,
like, well, the most crew, I don't know how to do tenders. I'm like, well, just every boat is different. The way the
yeah,
captain handles the boats, the
yeah,
procedures on the boat. So I'd like
yeah,
to
how you
use it
call
as
it in, whatever.
as a captain. I'd say, anonymously, we need more training, because although
yeah,
you don't know this application,
yeah.
different bridle lengths, different call signals.
Exactly.
I would add too that we all need more training together because like if I come onto your boat, I'm going to probably do things a little bit different. There's going to be little nuances between that. The timing is going to be a little bit different, you know, even though we're doing the exact same exercise, you know, the rhythm's going to be a little bit different. So we all need to do the reps together. So it's us as captains. We need to go, hey, let's try this again. Maybe let's next time let's try these, or you know, or you bring the crew in and say, hey, well, what needs to, you know, what can we step up on? What do we need to do
So
to
that's,
do better?
that brings up another point with our app, and I'm, it sounds like I'm just plugging away here, but
Geez, you
uh,
are plugging away there,
Hey,
buddy.
plug away, man.
Yeah, you jumped on this, Devlin. You're like, let me plug. I got that. But it's great to
well,
have you,
no,
mate.
because
Because
I mean, this is the whole thing is that there's a lot of, I've noticed a lot of apps are trying to come in and do let's panic button, panic button. That's just one element of what we can do
yeah,
to improve the industry. And so, touching in on this, we have the drill and training logs and records
I
where
like that.
you can film an entire training process, an entire drill process with timestamps, geostamps. The crew can log in, and then you can log that video into a file, which can be then sent exports to CSV. And this helps both sides. One, that you need to maintain your records of training and drills. But it's
Yeah,
also a case of, a crew member then goes on their own little, passage of thinking and ends up doing something. There's a course of like, hey, here's proof of you on video being told that's not the way you do it. This is the way you do it. So there's also these follow-up actions of like, yeah, as Scott's saying, let's make sure the training it should just be second nature. And if you have to overtrain or over drill or over show things off, that's fine. I'd rather have that than
yeah.
an accident. And
We've got
if
a
you can have all of these measures in place that are easily I mean, everything's done for you. You just film it, upload the file, you click a few buttons as to what training you're doing, and it's all saved,
yeah.
it's all logged. And you can reference that whenever you want for any insurance company or any flag states that they're looking for, whatever they're looking for.
That's
And
that
now you start.
accountability bit. You know, the
That's it. And
accountability.
now we have these levels that they should become so standard in the industry that every month or every 2 weeks, depending how much you want to do the drills, you go over and over these things that every crew member that comes on board, you can film their um, uh, introduction to the boat, how they walk around. You can film all these things and just log it, and it's there. And if there's ever any issues about, hey, they never showed me that. Well, actually, here at this time and this date in this marina, here's the video of you walking and being shown exactly what you're saying you didn't see. And it's just so this is not just something to save the crew. This is something to lift the levels of everything in the industry.
Yeah, true, but I'll be a devil's advocate here. We've got a comment here. Someone's asking what we're talking about. We're talking about kind of crew safety and solutions, more so solutions than identifying the safety concerns. We're talking about
Yep.
real live solutions that, All Safe Yachting have provided a great app, and I'm excited to work with it. But being the devil's advocate, the crew we're getting in the industry now, they're a lot more aware and alert of the risks that we put them into. And
Yeah.
then when they have that burden of accountability on them, they don't feel as safe. So it's a catch 22 when you start measuring people. I used to have this saying, if it can't be measured, it can't be managed.
Hmm.
But the more you
Yeah.
measure someone, the more they lose their freedom to feel comfortable. And that
Sure.
increases the risks of injuries too. But what I love about it is that, what you're saying, the crew training, where you can record the data and at least
Hmm.
everyone has a reference back.
Yep. Yeah, they can go back and look at it if they don't remember what happened. Or so this is the thing. It is for both sides. I'm
Yeah.
obviously I'm trying to make sure that because here's the thing. If we can make sure that this is something every boat has, and even if it's not my app, if it's another app that does the same thing, then so be it. But obviously I'd like it to be mine. But
Yeah.
the thing is that I want the owners to want this on board to
Yeah.
take away liability, to take away too much accountability. I mean, just insurance purposes. If they can have video and geolocation and timestamps, date stamps for every single thing that's happened on board, and it can be literally pulled with a couple of clicks of a button, not having
Yeah.
to go through files, that's going to be fantastic for everyone.
Look, I mean,
But
it's transparency is what you're after, and that does ruffle feathers. I'll be honest,
Yeah,
Devlin, that does ruffle
it does.
feathers.
sure,
And I'm fine with that because I love an uncomfortable conversation because I
Yeah,
believe you grow. And
yeah.
it's, they're the conversations where you go, this doesn't feel right. Okay, why doesn't it feel right?
Yeah.
Why should we hide these things? We should be transparent about where we are on the yacht at all times. We should be transparent about our level of training. But let's just jump quickly to the mental health, because that's one you've got that I really jumped at. You said access, immediate access, anywhere, anytime. And
Yeah.
although it's AI, it is a path, correct?
Yeah, so it is. It's CBT trained, so cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's
Okay.
designed by psychiatrists and psychologists that in the process of a CBT training. So it's going to ask you questions a therapist would ask you. It's going to give you guidance in the way a therapist would guide you. So I did it. I've cleared data and restarted it a few times now to try it from different angles. One of them was like, I'm having issues with the other crew members. And then it tells you, okay, so what does it make you feel like? How does it make you? And then the next day it'll give me like movies to watch. It'll give me breathing exercises. It'll give me
Oh, great.
books to read. And then it keeps asking you, how did you feel today? What did you feel like you accomplished today? Did anything make you feel nervous today? And it opens up these lines of conversation for the crew
Yeah.
to just lie in bed and go, this is actually, I felt shit today. I felt really annoyed that
Yeah.
this happened, or the other crew are really getting on my nerves. It'll say, okay, why don't you try this breathing exercise? And why don't you try and take a little bit more time to yourself? It just guides you in a way. And I just want to make sure that the disclaimer is on here and on the app. This is no substitute for the real thing. It is just a mental health assistant to give you some
I'll tell you,
guidance.
I'll tell you what, it's better than most people,
Hmm.
which they do nothing. Number one, most
Yes.
people
Yes.
do nothing. And number two, they'll probably go onto social media or ask someone who's even less trained, as in maybe a
Yes.
family member or a friend or someone even worse in the
Yeah.
same environment. And you're
Yeah.
100%.
not, Scott and I are big believers of externalizing the problem,
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
the people out of the problem and looking for professional help. So I appreciate
Yeah.
the disclaimer, but I think it's so far above what people are currently doing that I think it's a
Agreed.
Yeah.
good
And it's
tool.
so well
It's a
trained.
good
I've
path.
tried. I've tried to push the button. Like when I say push the buttons, I'm
Yeah.
trying to push the boundaries on it to see what it would do. And as soon as I start talking about, oh, I hate myself, I do that. And it'll start saying, do you want me to call a professional? There is an SOS button that you can push at any time. And if it feels like you're escalating something, it'll do it for you. It'll call 911 on your behalf or whatever it'll call for help. It's not something that just it sort of brushes away. If it has those little trigger words that if it feels like you're a danger to yourself or anybody else, it will immediately escalate it. But for the most part, it's just it's a tool that can really help just on the day-to-day basis. You lie in bed, you ask a few questions, it gives you some guidance, it gives you a little bit of ideas on how to sort of calm yourself down or push yourself into a different train of thought. And I've been using it myself just to test it. And it's a really, really great tool. And I'm really positive that it's something that, especially the big strong, but I know them South African deckies, they're not
Yeah.
going to go to a therapist. But
No.
if this is
Yeah.
if this is a tool where the captain will say, hey, I can see if you've checked in or not. I need you to check in once a day, just, for your own sake more than anything else. But just to just
Yeah.
go in and not, all of that is very confidential, by the way. None of the information that you put into the app will ever go back to the captain or anything. What we do get is analytics on a broader scale. So we will, if there's a crew of 15 at the end of every month, we could say, 6 out of 15 crew have mentioned fatigue, or
Yeah.
8 out of 12 have mentioned sexual advances unwantedly or something like that. So it will give you like breakdowns of ratios, but it'll never tell you who said what or how. But it'll help us to understand, and these are things completely confidential. We'll state that many times. We
Yeah.
could get this data analytics over the course of 50 boats, and then that's
Yeah.
where we can start diving a little deeper into the industry and saying, hey, this is something we didn't expect, but 40% of the crew are talking about, I don't know, whatever, better drinks on board. I don't know. There's little things
Yeah.
that we'll be able to find out, just stupid things. But obviously the bigger issues is where we want to avoid anything like what happened with Paige. Obviously, that's the
Yeah.
goal. And if, as far as the panic button goes, that's the part of the app I want nobody to ever use.
Yeah.
But having the mental health assistant, I'd love for them to use that daily, for their own mental health and for getting as much information as we can about the industry that's been incredibly secretive for a very long time.
Yeah.
And people just not just with NDAs and stuff. And you can't. It's not about talking about the guests. It's about how you feel. And if
Yeah.
if you've had 12, 18-hour days in a row, don't tell anybody because then you're a pussy. You just
Yeah,
show up
yeah,
and do it.
And
And
it's so real life. Hey, do you mind, Devil, just adjusting your camera a little bit? You got a beautiful
sure.
face. I can only see half of it. There you go.
Yeah, no
Because
problem.
we're going to
yeah,
repost it. That's better, mate. That's better, buddy.
No, you're good.
No, but I think the reality is the industry, although we portray, so high standards, and our guests see the high standards,
Yeah,
I'll be brave enough to say and vulnerable behind the scenes, even boats that I operate, they're not, we're trying, but we're
yeah,
yeah,
still afraid of hours of rest. We're still
yeah,
afraid of
hmm
mental health. We're still afraid of saying we need to go for a run. And
yeah,
they're the things that I really want to drive home in conversations like this Check-in Tuesday with, Captain Scott, and just say, okay, guys, Captain Scott, look at him as an icon, and he's going for his walks into his mountains,
yeah,
or going for his hikes, or I'm going for my breath work or my yoga. These are things that are accessible every day to make crew feel better, because too many times crew wake up, get a Red Bull, get a Coke, or go
oh yeah,
outside and work. And I
yeah.
see it every day. Every boat I run, I see it. And I'm like, guys, we've got to do better than this because our
hmm
clients demand more.
Yep.
hmm
Yeah, no, it's and that's what I'd love to get enough information to say, hey, we need one crew volleyball game a week that's going to
Yeah.
help the crew come together, get outside, utilize a little bit of excess energy, and just have these little things that we can work out. Because maybe we find in the analytics that just loneliness is huge, and I'm sure
yeah,
it must be for a lot of
Oh,
it
people.
is.
really?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, it's like a lot of people, like they go and it's the crew become their friends, but that's forced upon you. You either fit in
True.
or yeah. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
I think there's a lot more things that we don't know about it. I mean, I've had my own. I mean, Scott can attest to this. I've had my own mental issues in everything, and I've taken the big step of going to see people and get
Yeah.
analyzed, and it's done me the world of good. But it took me a long
Yeah.
time to do that. I'm a big
hmm
stupid boxing, South African male. So it's like it's hard for me to do that, but I'm really proud of doing it now because I got to do it
Yeah.
for my
Well
kids.
done.
And cheers,
yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
Thank you.
likewise. I think this, whether you externalize it and try and internalize it with breath work and yoga, or you externalize it, both are forms of help. And I
hmm
see a therapist in gap counseling, and he's not so much a therapist, but someone I can relate to and talk to,
Yeah.
that goes, okay, right direction, wrong direction. This is a check in once a month. I'm like,
yeah,
cool. I like that.
No, it
yeah.
is, and
It's
it's so important because we don't we've been programmed as males, especially male adults.
yeah,
We've been programmed. You just deal with it. That's all.
yeah.
Yeah.
How you deal with
We
it's
can
never been
handle it.
taught to you. The
Yeah,
steps you take in order to deal with it, that's never shown to you. It's just
no,
deal
Yeah.
with it. And you're like, well,
But
okay, but what if I'm not? And
yeah.
True,
then
but
You,
it's
Captain Scott, you're on the front line, Captain Scott. You see the crew around you. You know, do you feel like we're making steps, or you think there are not your specific crew, but just in terms of the industry, maybe we're making steps in the right direction?
I think so, and I know so because there's a lot more things. I think people are a lot more like cognizant of a lot of these issues and stuff, and I'm seeing more like group activities and stuff, and people kind of connecting more, and like even when you go to marinas, like there's groups that have activities, yoga or hey, we're going to do this or that, and it's activities that not necessarily just. And maybe it's because I'm gravitating a little more as I get older to a lot more of these type of activities. But I'm seeing, you know, companies like Grand Yacht Crew, which are consolidating, doing these like large groups, which I'm a part of. That I think it's great because you can access other people all over the globe. Like say, we go in the Caribbean or the Med, and you don't know anybody, and then there's these groups there that. Hey, there's 10 people here that want to play soccer. Hey, you guys want to play? Let's get a game together, and you already have that camaraderie because you're on yachts and stuff, and you kind of already have that thing in common. So then you're playing soccer as well. So then that kind of helps. And I'm seeing, you have like Yachty Minds Matter. You have Dev with All Safe Yachting, and these things are growing out of like actual solutions and stuff like that. And I'm pretty excited because it can only make us better, and
Yeah.
that's what the goal is. Because I know that's what I work on every day, and I'm excited to see, especially like the younger crew doing more things and that have options that aren't just like going to the bar and drinking. And there's nothing wrong with doing that.
Yeah.
we all do that, done that, and all that stuff. But a lot of the younger crew, I'm noticing that even like my girls at home, a lot of their friends don't necessarily do those activities and stuff, which I think
No.
is kind of interesting because they've kind of found all these other activities that they're really excited about.
Yeah, well, I see a lot of crew now too with the proteins and the creatines and the different, like crew
Yeah.
themselves realizing to sustain
Yeah.
these long days out on deck, they're going to need fitness.
Oh yeah.
So they're not
And the
going out
correct
partying
fuel.
so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fuel.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think just going back to what you were just talking about, I think what's also happened is, I noticed that in the restaurant industry, I was a chef for many, many years, 20 in
Okay.
the restaurant industry for nearly 30 years. Um, and it was also almost a secretive environment behind the counter. Once out in the front, it's fantastic, and you sit there and have
Yeah.
your wine served and everything's. And then there's guys doing 20-hour shifts, 6 days a
Oh yeah.
week. Getting paid a salary because they don't want to pay you per hour because they can't afford that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and it was fulfilling in the sense that when you get good, you get good, and it's wonderful to hear people talking nicely about a product you've just cooked. Um, but I noticed once the TV shows started coming out, Gordon Ramsay and all these, the whole world changed because they got a bit more interested in the chefs and what was happening
Hmm.
behind the counter. And then there was a bit of a mindset change. A lot of talk about mental health, and
Yeah.
Anthony Bourdain was another big one that sort of helped a lot of people understand the industry a little bit better the way he wrote his books. And then I think
Yeah.
now with Below Deck, I think the industry is getting a lot of interest, and people are now going, okay, let's find out more about this, and that's giving us more of an insight. And I think people are going, okay, well, it looks like a lot of hard work, and look at all the drama that goes on. And so I think
Yeah.
all those little tidbits are helping everybody to go, hey, it's great that we do get a lot of bonuses, and the perks for this job are insane, but
Yeah.
there's no reason we can't have the actual working conditions somewhat improved. I'm not going to say they're ever going to be perfect because we have to. I mean, we're doing sort of 7, 8 star service um,
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
floating hotel that there's nobody. You can't just pop next door and ask them to help you or something. You got to do
Yeah.
everything
Exactly.
yourself. And
So,
Yeah.
so I'm going to ask you this then, Dev, correct? Should I call you
yeah,
Dev
yeah, Dev,
or
yeah, yeah, go for it.
Dev? Because Devlin sounds a bit strange, I got
I can
to be
imagine it
telling.
does. Yeah,
um, all right, Dev. It comes down to money, though. In the end of the day, this industry is so, financially imbalanced
yeah,
Oh yeah.
between the amount of money that's spent on certain things. Like, crew conditions are great. Yes, understood, accept. But we don't give anything back to build a great crew. We don't give anything back to build and support our environment. So
yeah,
that's where I
no,
find it's tough. And I bring that all the way back to brokers. I'm not saying a negative thing about brokers here,
yeah,
but I'm just saying the reality is when we sell boats or we management companies manage boats, we should be more crew centric. And we're
Yes.
creating these experiences that need to have a core of wellness crew based, not
Yeah.
just guest demand based. So that's
Hmm.
where I kind of like your app because I'm like, when they're selling boats and they're giving these owners the keys to these tools and to run 10, 12, 25, 35 crew, we should be telling these owners that, okay, part of the responsibility is to ensure your crew are looked after and there's
Yeah.
these programs available, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Oh,
I would agree wholeheartedly because, a lot of times I've learned throughout my career that a lot of times the things that are done in these people's companies to make them successful, they've had employees for 20, 30, 40 years sometimes, are these things are not done on the yachts at all. It's seen as a hobby, and so it's not really the same type of thing. And I would reiterate with the brokers and stuff, not to harp on them, but I brought this up before, just having the real estate background. When you're buying a business, you get you do your fiduciary due diligence where you get all the all the costs of everything, and healthcare and everything else, but you don't get that with a yacht. It's secret, it's private. They can tell you whatever number. A lot of times you don't get access to that information, whereas if the person buying the boat had that actual information, they would know exactly what it costs and what each crew member costs, and what and especially in a successful program where they pay for good
Yeah.
health insurance, and they pay for activities for the crew and stuff like that, and other things. They'd see exactly how much it costs. They do it in the airlines. They do it in all these other industries, but it's not done in our industry. And it really, that's like one of my wish lists. And I don't really know how to go about that. But
Yeah.
it's something that I think if it were to happen, it would build that transparency that we're always talking about.
Oh, I've hit a soft spot there, Scott, haven't I, mate? I've realised. Well, I do think that, in the end of the day, so many people blame the captain and blame me. I'll
Yeah,
say
yeah,
blame me.
yeah,
And all my crew, okay, that didn't work out. Blame me. Whatever happened, blame me,
yeah,
guys. Bring it on. These shoulders have to be strong, and you guys are two strong men,
yeah,
and you guys take the burden, and we feel it,
yeah.
and we bring that stress inside, and it kind of tears us apart, and we make decisions that aren't sustainable or good for our health, and therefore we need, to externalize it and get help or go for walks or breath work. When the reality is, we should have so much more support from people higher up in the industry. But like, I do think it's changing. I saw
I think so.
PYC Cayman. I think he's a great guy. I think it's AJ Blackman, Iconic Yachts. He was talking today about the responsibility of brokers to really not just sell the experience, but support the experience. And
Good.
I was
Mm.
like, cool, okay, that resonates. To support the experience means look after your crew, number one,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that is the core driver of the industry for success of the clients.
yeah, it
Yeah,
most
I
definitely
agree. I
is.
just wanted to say it was just while you were saying that about, why don't the owners the disparity between what they'll spend on a steak dinner and what they'll spend on their crew bonuses or it's I think a lot of it is unfairly put on the captain because they will be put into a situation where, okay, I'm leaving you with everything, but here's the budget, and if you don't meet it, then you don't get yours, and that way it's
Yeah,
Yeah,
like, okay, well, I need this to get the boat. Well, then that's up to you. Then you don't get your. And then it's like I feel like the pressure on the captains is sometimes unfair, and then that
yeah,
has to trickle down somewhere. There's
has
hmm
no.
to.
I mean, I couldn't
yeah, it
believe
has
how
to
many
be.
owners I worked for. And some of them were multiple boat owners. So they were into their fourth or fifth increased size yacht, and they'd be like, "So what do you guys do when we're not here?" Just nothing. And I'm like, "What? How have you not
Yeah,
had this conversation with your captain before?" Like, I
yeah,
said, like, "What do you think we do?" They're like, "Well, nothing, because we're not here." And I was like,
yeah,
"No, this is everything needs to be like stripped apart, maintained,
yeah,
clean, serviced. I need to cook for the crew,
yeah,
2 to 3 times a day,
Yeah,
every
everybody's
day."
got
And
to
I
eat.
know I was like, "What do you genuinely think we don't do anything when you're not on board?" And this is obviously a
yeah,
private boat. They're like, "Well, I never really thought about it." I was like, "Wow, that's pretty scary." But
yeah.
they just some of them just don't know, and they don't take the time to know. Um, and that's a lot. And I think a lot of it they just put on the captain. They're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I bought this boat. You run it. I want to come and have the best time ever." And how that
Yeah,
happens, that's on you.
yeah, but the
Yeah,
other demand also, and I don't want to turn this into a kind of a bitching session, but the other demand is the crew that come in expect all of a sudden the crew
oh
to
yeah,
have crew activities and the captain to take them out for dinner once every week or the end of a charter or go and create an event
yeah,
for them. And I'm like, man, guys, my event at the end of a charter is to find the closest mountain and just climb to the top
yeah,
of it and go, oh, thank you.
yeah.
To
Jump in
Yeah,
the
life on
totally.
water.
another
Yeah,
charter, like,
Yeah,
so that the demands come from both sides. But back to your app though, All
yeah.
Safe Yachting, it's really just come out in the last 12 months, correct? Or
yeah,
because
yeah. The
I just
last
see the
6 months,
pace of
really.
it
Yeah,
last 6 months.
yeah, yeah.
And
So
what's
I
been the
mean,
biggest
it's.
challenge for you?
I think it's just
Con-
making. We want it to be a standard in the
Convincing
industry.
captains.
Yeah, getting captains to spend their budget. Um,
Yeah,
but I mean, obviously, building the app, that was, coming from a chef background in restaurants and hotels, the whole app development, that was, interesting. And, making sure everything works. And then the more I got into it, the more I wanted this to be an app that everyone can use. I want the engineers logging all their, maintenance. I want the crew, every drill training is logged and saved. I want the crew going on every night to check in on themselves, make, to speak to the app and let them know how they're feeling and get any kind of feedback they can to help them feel better. Um, and then obviously, you mentioned something and I just brushed off on it. It's not monitoring the crew. There is obviously live location of the crew at all times while they're on duty. But if the crew are going off, there's actually ghost mode,
Oh, okay.
which it turns off their location. So no one can see where they are, but they still have access to the panic button and the emergency services. You just can't go onto the dashboard and see where they are.
Yeah.
So this is really not. We're not trying to have a gotcha app for the crew. This is
Yeah.
we want compliance and safety and mental health all looked after under one umbrella. And I like to think we've got there and we've done that. And then we do have the
Congratulations,
hours of
mate.
rest.
It does look great. I'll give you that much.
Yeah.
It looks absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
And
You
we've
know?
got the hours of rest as well. So they check in and check out, and it gives a daily rest, a daily calculation of how many hours they were on and how many hours they were off. And again, can be easily exported and worked out at the end of the month or the end of the week, whatever they're trying to do, hours of rest. So I'm really just trying to make sure that the crew have wonderful tools to be, supported. And then I also want
Yeah.
something that captains and owners and management can use as a compliance and reporting tool. So that's,
So
I was hoping I
in
can
the
cover
end, in
everything.
terms of accountability, not accountability, in terms of reporting or follow through, the management companies see the data but not the actual names.
Yes. So if there's
Fantastic.
if Captain Liam Devlin reported an oil spill at this marina at this time on this day, and here's the video and here's what the crew did to sustain it or keep it in, that's obviously, they can look at that and that's under you. But if there
Yeah.
was somebody, touched me inappropriately, it was the first officer, there's the name, but I don't want to give my name in case there's any kind of feedback. They can just
Yeah.
put that anonymous tip in, and then that's up to the management company or the captain or the owners, whoever the designated parties are, to then escalate that. Um,
So
uh,
ideally, you're hoping management companies pick this up, bring it across their fleets, and
yep.
then have more transparency in their fleets.
Yes, and then they
Love it.
can use that
Love it.
data. Yeah, so
Yeah.
they can use that data to then improve situations. My goal is, and I've been in chats with a few of the insurance companies, is I wanted to offset the cost. The amount of insurance that should come down because of liability, because of all of this recording and logistics and everything, having all the data there, that should, I don't think this is going to cost the boats anything. I think this is almost going to be, quid pro quo as far as when insurance rates come down, and then you just pay for this per crew member, and then it works out that way.
Well, it's
So
kind of
that's
like
my goal.
towing, Captain Scott. You remember towing back in the day when so many boats were lost of
Yeah.
towing, and all of a sudden, insurance companies are like, okay, let's get some vessel monitoring, and
Yeah.
we'll cover these vessels again because for a couple of years there, you could not tow at night, you could not tow over 12
Yeah.
miles
Yeah.
because so
Because
many
all the
boats were
boats are
being
lost.
lost at sea.
More than
You
6 foot
know?
seas, 20 knots
Yeah.
of breeze, you can't leave or what have you. And yeah,
So
that's
now,
it. Yeah.
so the insurance companies are going to see losses like the Loon Tender page. They're going to come around and realize that these type of losses are so great economically that they're better off monitoring on the front end.
Well, so my goal is for the industry to be all safe yachting certified. So
Oh,
if your
okay.
boat is all safe yachting
Go big or
certified,
go home, Dev.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
oh,
that.
man.
absolutely, yeah, why
Ah,
not?
the
I mean,
eagle has
Nice.
it's
landed.
like and be
Nice.
MLC compliant because that'll all fit in. MLC compliant or all safe yachting certified. That's the goal. That's where I want to be. It's and the more we sell, obviously, the better, the more boats it's on, the more feedback we get, the more analytics we get, the better we can feed the industry with information. And just want to reiterate again that data and analytics that we get will be an overview. There will be no names attached, no
Yeah.
boat names attached. It'll just be so many of these reports submitted, so many of these reports submitted, so on and so forth. And we can also do the same with the data analytics for the mental health. And we can
Well, the
say
positive, yeah. The positive of
40%
that
of the
is
crew
we get
members
all
are
the
feeling
data from
fatigued.
boat buying, crew wages. We get all this data for all the things, how many boats over 100 foot were sold, how many charters, but none of it actually means anything to the crew in terms of how we feel and how we're going to be better. So it's good
Exactly.
to see someone kind of focused on the thing that I believe matters most to the
Yeah.
success of
100%.
the client.
And
Because
we
in the
want
end of
this.
the
We
day, they're
want
comparing
crew to
wages,
stay.
you're comparing boat sizes, and that's never a win-win game. But if you can
No.
No,
actually say, like even the crew score, whether it's whatever you think of it, it's at least a mark somewhere. It means
exactly.
someone saying something, good or
E-
bad,
Exactly. And it
Take it
could
as
be.
you
It's
want.
like really enjoying, you know, they, 60% of the crew talk about how important it is for their chef to be on duty and cook for them hot meals every day. Now we know how important that is in the industry. I think we all know that already, but that's just something that we could
60,
reinforce
other
that.
than 100%, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure it is. Yeah. But no, it's just these sort of things that we can get them in writing and just say, hey, we know that over a
Yeah.
thousand vessels, we have a feedback of 20% of people prefer 3 hour watches over 4 hour watches, whatever, when you're doing
Yeah,
crossings, like these sort of things. I'm just stupid, but it's just, there's no other way of getting this information right now. You go to a
yeah. Well,
boat and the
Yeah.
captain does one way of doing it, and then you go on the next boat, the other captain has a different way of doing it. And there's no sort of foundation to say, hey, well, we know that this one either works better or has a better, result from crew,
yeah.
mindset. So I don't know. I just
Well,
think
it's interesting.
that,
I think
so,
Sage Leadership Hub, I forget her name, Sage Leadership Hub. I've just joined Sage Seas. And the first thing they do when they join a program, they're designed to improve the leadership skills and the teamwork. The brokers usually, or management companies, send them in to
okay.
boats to try and lift the standard. And the first thing they do is survey all crew across the board to see where the crew's at and how they feel. And
Oh,
they
wow.
every time, I'm just having a mental block of a name now, but she's wonderful. Sage Seas, Sage Leadership
HCs.
Hub. And the first thing she says is the captains are the most shocked about the results. Because what a captain thinks is all perfect and everything's great and everyone knows their job, most times that's not the case,
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
captain's the
Well,
one that has to kind of open his eyes first and say, oh, crew don't feel like we're doing enough drills, but we do a drill every Thursday. Okay, well, maybe that's not quality drills, or
yeah.
crew don't feel like they know this or that. So that's kind of where it starts, is that information, the data you get from a survey or from anonymous kind of, like you're saying, the data you're getting gives you the foundation to change.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess, I
That's
mean, just to use a silly example, when they first invented cars, you used to have to do a 4 hour test to drive it. That was it. There was no road rules, there was no nothing. And, as we get further along, the yachting industry's been around for a while, but it's never been as widely exposed as it is now. So we have more
Yeah.
people joining. We want those crew to stay. So as we get bigger and as we want to get better, and the more information we can get on board and take off board, to improve the industry, the better. It's an incredible industry. And I know owners, the biggest thing that they always complain about is crew turnover. They would love to keep
mhm.
crew longer. And if we can find out what it is that's bothering the crew mostly, hopefully we can work on it. Some of those things, as I said, we are a really high pressure environment. So some of the things we can't take away. But if
Yeah.
we can just alleviate some of those smaller issues, things that we might not even know exist yet, because you know, what I find difficult on a boat, you might find easy, and what
Yeah.
Scott might find difficult,
Yeah.
I
It's
might
all
find easy, whatever.
it's all being in alignment. Every boat has a different personality and different personalities. So, I could do great on one boat, but not on another. It's just all a conflict. But I'll be the last person to say that everything's perfect on my boat, but I'll be the first one to pretend it is.
Yeah,
Same, same. No, no, I have this motto: all we can do is be better. If that was good,
Yeah.
great. But all we can do is be a little bit better each day. And when I have a charter, I say, okay, it doesn't matter what we did yesterday. Today, we just got to
Yeah.
rethink it, just tweak it slightly. I know you're tired. I know you're exhausted. I know you're burnt out and you want to quit. Okay, we acknowledge that. But
Yeah.
we just still, these clients are so demanding. But what I'm thinking though is, yes, captain's fault, blah, blah, blah. But above that, these owners come in very different demands.
Hmm.
And it's very hard, even with the data you're getting, for someone to get the true picture of a program without understanding the different ownership styles or
Yeah.
charter styles. Because some owners want personal
yeah,
interaction. And I've
Hmm.
worked with some owners that want to know your life story, your everything about
Yeah.
your life.
yep,
And they enjoy that because then it's an environment that they're like, we feel comfortable with you as a crew. We
family.
like your story. We're a family. Other owners, like a Russian owners I've worked with, do not even want to know your name. Don't even want to know you exist. And let alone even offer, it's not your job to offer anything. It's the stewardess's job. So you got to read the room. So
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
do we
Yeah,
kind of, that's where I think there's a big gap here in the industry between crew, captains,
and
management
owners. Yeah,
companies, brokers and owners. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how in the next 10 years we can really unify the industry to be better and better.
100%.
The worst word I want to use is a word my son wants to use lately, is because we're in Canada, is unionization. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's not going to work in yachting, and it's not a space for it because it's such a global industry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think.
But
I think to add to your point, if we had something like what Devlin's talking about, where we have consolidation of data, because everyone's kind of
Yeah,
on an ad hoc basis, if we put it all together, we could find better solutions and stuff like that for certain things. It doesn't necessarily need to be a unionization, because then we're going to have one group and then it's becoming an us or them kind of
Yeah.
yeah,
situation, which is not going to be good for anything because it's we need to have like a global solution that includes the ownership, the management companies,
And we're also
the
talking about an industry
brokers,
that is worth
us,
hundreds and hundreds of billions of,
billions of
the people
dollars.
that
Yeah.
own these boats. That if we say we want unionization in these countries,
Bye.
they will just go and find another place to put their flag state. They,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
so
100%.
it's not a,
You're not going to
Easily.
go on strike and stop the train. The train will keep
No,
going in this case. So,
no. They'll
yeah,
build a new
exactly.
train. They'll
they'll build
build
a
a
new
new
Absolutely.
train.
train.
Yeah. Well,
The
that's
old
what's the
barber
challenge.
train line.
That's why we are rewarded the way we are. That's why the compensations are quite high because we're not moving cargo. We're not moving a
No,
container. We're
Yeah.
dealing with real life emotions from a crew perspective, from an owner perspective, and we're trying to create these experiences that the world doesn't get bigger. Right, the world's
Yeah.
not getting any bigger. Like we know all the corners now. So how do you
yeah,
figure out these unique experiences? And
Yep.
it's a challenge, man. It's hard. It's hard.
Oh, it is. Yeah. It's I did it when I was on the just talking about when I was on Scott's Investors podcast. I made the comment that I don't want to change my daughter for the industry. I'd rather
Yeah.
have the industry change so that my daughter can enjoy it. And
Oh,
yeah.
well
I
said.
agree. Yeah, it
I
was
do
Yeah,
good.
I've
this.
got my daughter. We've both got daughters. All of us got daughters.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
I guess that's a
exactly.
driving force for me too, because my daughter's 14 and I'm like, I'm scared to hell because I'm so proud of this industry. But the
Yeah, well,
stories
yeah,
I
that's it.
hear
I
are
love the
horrific.
industry, and it's
yeah.
just if we
My
can just find a more common theme of safety, security, and wellness, if we
And
can just
support.
do that as a
Support.
whole, that's
yeah,
it. Then it's going to be not only the greatest industry for the things you can achieve and see and do, it's also people are going to want to be fighting to get in the door. Right now,
Yeah.
this, and we want that because then you can start having the better because we know what it's like now. Sometimes you're not always left with the best crew because, the more, let's say, astute people are like, this is not for me. I'm out of
not
this.
for me. Yeah,
So
Yeah.
we need to find a way to create this environment where people want to stay and they
Yeah.
want to stay for the right reasons. Um,
yeah,
and that's where I'm at. That's where my goal is to get this to a point where I'm not trying to catch anybody. That's the thing. I love this industry. It's done so much for me and my family. It's a way that we can just make these little changes and these little layers of safety and security that just make me comfortable. My daughter's 10. So when she's of age to join the industry, would I be happier in 8, 9 years? And I'd like to say yes. I hope so. Um, but
Well, you've got
yeah, we
you got
just
companies like Super Yacht Alliance and the Guest Diana program, and so in the last decade we have seen a huge progression. But I think if
100%.
we can tap into this crew wellness and support, like we're talking about in these Tuesday check-ins, I think
Yeah,
that makes a difference because I see people now reaching out 5, 10 times a week to me on the DMs about just different challenges and different how they feel and can't get into yachting and or trying to change a boat. And I don't have the answers, but I can say
no,
go to these different people. you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
But it's good they're reaching out. Is the point?
100%. Well, and I think a lot of people they are more outspoken. Like it's I've worked on charter boats for a while, and it's some of the newer, younger kids come on board. And I remember they came on board 2 days before a charter, and then first day of charter, she was just standing there at the end of the 16-hour day going, "This is ridiculous." And I'm like,
Yeah,
I mean, it is, but it's just the way it is.
yeah.
Well,
But you're
no,
gonna
I'm
be
not. I'm going home. And I'm like, "What do you mean you're going home?" She's like, I'm not doing this. And I'm like, "What?"
yeah,
That's not the way this works. And she
yeah.
goes,
No,
"Well, it is." I was like, "No, what?"
yeah,
It
we're
just
not
didn't
gonna
make
yeah,
pull
sense to me.
over.
Yes. Well, no, she did. She left. We had to put her on the tender and get her a flight
Oh
out
yeah.
and
Well,
try
I
and find
guess.
a
yeah,
replacement. But it's you just us with the older school mentality, we're like, no, that's not how this works. You can't just
Yeah,
step
yeah,
off.
yeah.
But
No.
they're, the way things are moving now is yes, you can. If you don't
Yeah,
feel like you're in the right mind space, get out of the situation. And
yeah,
yeah.
we need to make sure that we create a good mind space
yeah,
True.
on as many boats as we can. As I
Yeah,
said, those 16-hour days, those need to be prefaced before they start the position. Hey,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
not going to
yeah.
have 8 hours on and then 16 hours off. That's not how this is going to work.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
No.
but it's also that's why you get paid a little bit more is to work those extra long days. But
Yeah.
Oh, and
just as
be
long as
away
there's
from
the
your support
environments
groups.
outside of that we can make some improvements on.
Yeah, yeah. And the demands are unrealistic, but you're also paid to be away from your family and support groups and be in these remote locations. It's difficult. But, new Captain Scott, how's your family? Oh, everyone's good for this Tuesday
I,
check in?
yeah,
Christmas was
everyone's good.
okay?
Yeah, everyone's good. Christmas is okay. They opened my presents for me, so I got some good
Oh,
stuff. It's pretty nice.
Nice.
I got a bunch of presents from the boat that I took home, and I was with my family, and my kids opened all my presents, and all of a
Yeah,
sudden it's books about breath work and yoga socks, and they're like, "Dad, what's happening this year? Last year it was diving and fishing. This week it's yoga socks and breath work books." And I'm like, I'm
nice.
just trying to figure out how to be better, mate. Kids, just
Hey,
don't give up.
I got before I forget, I got a book for you to read, and I'll send
Oh,
it to you if
cool.
you want. The
Yeah.
oxygen method, the oxygen method. I'll text it to you later.
Oh,
It's a
oxygen method.
great book. The oxygen
Do,
method. Yeah.
do they have it on Audible at all, or?
Yeah, it's all about breathing through your nose and how much that'll make you live longer.
I remember you saying that, but I've broken my being Australian, football player, a rugby player. I broke my nose a couple of times, and every time you like breathe through the nose, I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
it's getting
So
it takes
better.
a
only
long
lasts so
time. It
long.
takes a long time to fix it. And Dev, you probably busted your nose a few times too.
Just a few, yeah, a
Boxing
couple.
a
I
couple
can,
times. Yeah,
I can sort of feel it sometimes. Yeah,
So,
but
yeah.
no, the breathing through the nose. Yeah, not the
and where are
easiest.
you,
But
Dev?
what's that?
Where are you, mate?
Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, cool, man,
Yeah.
cool.
I've been living here about 13 years.
Nice.
Yeah, basically, I've got two young kids that are here with me today. I'm just keeping them quiet on the couch with their iPads while I do this call.
Oh
Yeah,
But
man.
mate.
they're all
Check
school
out
now,
check
so
out this though. Look at that,
Oh
that
man.
looks. Where's that?
Nice.
Dominican Republic.
Oh,
Oh, very
nice,
nice.
man.
Yeah, that's
Very
a
Yeah,
beautiful
nice.
it's
spot.
That's
I got
a
my
Yes,
great
kids.
yes.
place, man. Nice.
Yeah, it's the weirdest beach actually. It's this beach that's kind of pebbly, but it's there's a freshwater little spring that comes out just above high tide level. So you
Oh yeah.
sit like just at the water's edge and you get this cold spring water that comes under the
Oh
rocks.
man.
Oh,
And it's
that's
just
Nice.
like
amazing.
spot on. And then a cold Presidente beer later, maybe,
Oh
if my wife
nice.
lets me.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
How
And
far?
that's my mental
Nice.
health break for the
What is the
day.
temperature like down there? Because it's getting cold here.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
perfect. I mean, it's like 19. What is it in St. Bart's? That's Celsius. So like
It's
75.
yeah, something like that. But it's quite cooler. It's been about 70. The breeze is blowing, and I mean it's actually it's a lot cooler than Florida for sure. Yeah. Well,
Is it? Oh, because
not
it was
cooler.
cold this
No,
morning.
not cooler. No, sorry. No, cooler than when I left Florida, which it was pretty hot when I left Florida. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it was 64 degrees this morning here in Fort
oh,
Lauderdale.
okay. Well, that's nice then.
Yeah.
That's a good time of year. All
Yeah,
right, mate.
yeah,
Just in closing, in closing, I think we went over quite a lot of the pillars: the psychological safety, that the crew must feel safe, accessible support. We talked about the call button, which I think is a no brainer for crew. We
Yep.
have it for guests, so we need it. The real time alert solutions. Once again, the alert buttons. The anonymous digital reporting. Anonymous is the key, I
Yep.
think, for
It's 100%, and
transparency.
that's just to make a point on that. It's 100% anonymous. There's
Yeah,
no, we don't have access to it. Nobody has access to it unless obviously the authorities are involved and it's escalated to a certain level. Then, the guys will be able to pull it from the our sourcing, but there's no access to it. It's not something that the owners could then go, "Hey, I don't like what this person said. Show me who it was." That's not
yeah.
how this works. It would only
And then
would have to be escalated to law enforcement.
Yep, and at the end of the day, it comes down to leadership and accountability. So the reporting is available, so we need it to improve the systems. Is there anything else you think we've missed in regard to kind of crew safety and well-being? Crew safety and support was kind of the
Yeah, no,
process.
it's. I mean, it's the thing is the big one is let's make sure that there are these added levels of safety with the panic buttons. Let them have it on them. We can. It's on the app if they're not allowed to use their phone in front of the guests. We do have the silicone watches, or we can just put on a lanyard under your shirt, and that means that you're always protected at all times, whether you fall, whether you're off the boat doing provisioning, and something happens. You always have that extra layer of support immediately.
Yeah,
But then, yeah, the app itself on the onboard, they're on the boat. They've got the access to the mental health support. It's always available as well. They are other if they want to log in any kind of complaint, anonymous report. It's all there on the app. It's all easy to use. And then the management, yeah, the captain as well. They can check in anything and make sure if the crew are taking a long time after they've done a tender run, as long as they have access to, the internet or Wi-Fi, he can check
Yeah.
exactly where they are and make sure everybody's okay. So
Yeah.
it works both ways.
All right. Well, thanks, team. Scott, what about you? Anything to finish up, mate? I know we kicked out after an hour, I think.
Yeah, I think so. No, but I just, reiterate, I'm glad to see more things like Devlin's doing here, and just let's keep it going. Let's, everybody keep trying to be better and make it safer for everyone, because I think these conversations are very important. If anybody needs anything, feel free to reach out, and we're always here, glad to help.
Yeah, amen to that, man. It's for me, it's crew first. We've all got daughters, we've all got sons, we've all got crew members that we're responsible for, and the buck does stop with us, so it must start with us. That's my kind of
Yeah,
motto for captains out there. It's you can't push it under the carpet or out the crew best door anymore. With transparency in yachting, and I think it's good. I think it's a good thing. We get held
yeah.
accountable. So I think you've got great tools, Dev, and lovely to meet you, mate. Look forward to meeting
Appreciate
Liam,
it.
your
Yeah,
your
nice
brother,
finally
one
meet
day.
you. Good to see you
All
again,
right,
Scott.
guys. All right,
All
guys.
right.
All right,
See
thanks,
you, Dev.
Scott.
Thanks again.
Take care,
All right,
guys.
Liam.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.